Right, so first up tonight, before I get started, I will say I am using larger pieces of Dracaena than I usually use. This is not because I've gone to a friend's house and stolen a bunch. It's because at this time of year, because we did have a really big, decent storm last night, everything is leafing up. It's a good time to cut back Dracaenas that I've previously used as markers and previously used to add density places, just to get a little bit more light into areas that are a bit shady at this time of year. That means that a lot of things that I keep in shade that would usually be planted in full sun in wetter climates can actually get the light they need at this time of year when there's a little bit more cloud cover and it's a little bit darker generally. First up tonight, we're going to be using a native tree that can also be used as a hedge as well as a tree. This is Oncoba spinosa, and like a lot of hedge-forming species, it's a really good one for starting a forest. It won't get huge, it can get larger than something like Carissa I planted the other day, but like the Carissa, it will tend to grow low in very open environments. As things get higher and things get a little bit shadier around it and it gets a little bit more competition, it will get a little bit higher, but it won't top out at the height that true forest trees will. So it's a good foundational tree. Don't expect it to last if you really heavily shade it out, but if you want to use this to get other more sensitive trees established, this is a good one to plant a couple of years before others, as are a lot of hedge trees, generally speaking. So Oncoba spinosa is sometimes called the fried eggplant or the snuffbox tree. It is useful for the hard pod of its fruit, which is very often used for rattles and for ornaments and for making small bowls and cups and for making little cases to store small things in, like snuff, for example. It's also edible. It has a whole bunch of medicinal uses, and in Congo it's actually treated as pretty much a use for everything, but one of the things I want to use it for in the long run is once the fruit dries. Although when it's fresh, like a lot of Zambian fruits, when you pluck it off the tree when it looks ripe, it is not that pleasant. Once it has dried a little bit in there, it gets this wonderful, rich, sort of toffee, or slightly pruny smell and a really rich, sweet flavor, which I think would be very good for processing into jams and other preserves. Both the Dracaena and the Oncoba are native trees. I'm going to be spoiling that little streak with an Agave attenuata, which is an American, actually Mexican I think, succulent plant. I don't really need a prickly berry here, as you might guess from the spinosa part of the tree's name, but I do want a nice largish ground cover here. I'm also going to be putting some pieces of Cotlet and Barbe, which might narrowly enter Zambia, which is another very distantly related to Oncoba, so it works as a toxic barrier succulent ground cover, which should do absolutely fine with no care and attention, as should everything else here if they have the rains to establish and it's a good range. I am going to be doing a second tree tonight. That is not because I missed a night for a change. This is just because I felt like making a pun that you will hear if you go on any walking safari in the south of Zambia. So second tree, once I put another large Dracaena in, is Kigelia africana. So this is the sausage tree, and you can think fried egg tree, sausage tree, you can see where I'm going with that one. But this is a lovely native tree. It does have a large fruit, but that is not edible. It looks like a giant sausage. It is filled with a pulpy substance which can be quite usefully applied to a lot of topical concerns. It's very widely used traditionally. I think it has had some pharmaceutical research into it. I know it's now available in a lot of European countries in little very expensive bottles. Generally speaking, if I want to use it on a rash or a burn or something, I would just pulp up the inside and just smear it on as fresh as possible. The older it is, the less effective it seems to be. So I don't know how effective the bottles you get in supermarkets are. But that is going to be going in as well as the Dracaena with a piece of the Alocameroni, and staying a little bit on the break the native streak, I am going to be planting one non-native plant, which is the Madagascan Calico pinnata, which is the cathedral bells. It's a very prolific one. It's a very good one for the areas which are hard to keep watered because it is virtually unkillable. It will eventually get crowded out by the shade, but until then it should do a good job of keeping the grass down, keeping the flammability down, and again it's very distantly related to a sausage tree, so it acts as quite a good toxic barrier to that. And that should be everything for today, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you haven't enjoyed it, thank you for watching anyway. Please tune in again tomorrow because I will be planting something else. I don't know what yet, but we'll see.